Hello, everybody, and welcome to the April Fool's Day, Easter Monday version of the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with Barry Hederachi. Barry, how you doing?
Doing pretty well.
Excellent, excellent. Did you have a good Easter?
Had a great Easter.
Yeah, I just got in from Easter vacation with the family, and it was fantastic. But the markets
Mhm.
are starting to show their hand a little bit, and I think let's jump in. We're going to cover with Barry the big five as we always do, which is ES, bond, gold, copper, crude oil, the dollar, and the euro. Today, I'm going to cover commodities of corn, cotton, coffee, silver, crude, and nat gas. So. Let's jump in, start with the E-mini, which we had a very interesting development overnight on Easter Sunday.
The week before, we spent, I don't know, good 15, 20 minutes on the E-mini. So we went over everything that we were thinking up to that point. So
Hmm.
today I'll just follow up a little bit and add to that. And if you guys haven't seen it, just watch the last episode and we covered, I know, I think we put in a good 15, 20 minutes just for the E-mini. So it's worth watching and it'll get us dialed up to what we were thinking at the time. And
Hmm.
and even now, because it hasn't really changed. So we left off pretty much in the same range. We
Yes,
had this box drawn up and we were talking about this range between 5200 and 53. Top of the box 5310 being our upper limit for all of this to work, and 52 being the lower limit. So we got to the 5310. So
hmm
what happened, what Ben was talking about earlier, was this really looks like the makings of a false break. And what happens is, we'd go higher, make a new high, and then turn around and sell off. Now, the way we sort of confirm that is depending on the follow tomorrow after today. So we'll watch that and we'll look at the 30-minute chart and the other numbers that we're watching.
hmm
But for now, it looks like we could have a potential false break in the works. Just to spend a couple of minutes on what we were covering last week. One of the things was the Dow getting up 180 degrees from the low from last October, and that's a very key resistance level. So we got to that, and we also have timing. Here's the S&P cash. Here we squared out basically 144 by 144,
which is
and
huge.
which is huge. And I talked about moving the square into the weekend and how that pretty much squares it. And what's interesting is this week, good news or bad news, we never really got above that square.
Nope.
We tried to peak here and there, but technically, and the other thing is, the cash actually made a lower high.
Hmm.
So that's something, so we have a flavor of both. We have a lower high in the cash and we have a false break in the futures. Um, so so that's what we're working with. And what we want to see, if this square is working and if that's going to halt the move, and if we're going to correct to anything, have any kind of a meaningful correction, we'd want to see these lows being taken out. At least, if you draw a trend line, we'd want to see that trend line be taken out.
Hmm.
But in a hurry, we don't want to spend too much time here because then that's not necessarily bearish. So I would say this week, if this is going to go
Yeah.
one way or the other, right? We have to settle this in the next couple of days. So that's this. So this is another chart we looked at last week or the last episode. So this is 144 by 144. Well, here's the calendar day chart for the futures market that we looked at.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, this is what's interesting is 144 here. And if you take this high, that's about 150 degrees. So that matters too. That's, on a 60-degree square, that's 120 plus 30 degrees makes 150. So we're, basically this range is really, we have price working, holding and providing resistance. And that's exactly where we sort of went up and parked it. So like I said, we spent a lot of time last week. So it's worthwhile going and watching that instead of rehashing the whole thing again. So in the meantime, for next week, I think the biggest thing is if we can trade above 53.10 or not. If we get above that, obviously we're going to take out today's high or overnight high, and then there's something else happening, and there's more to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not unusual for us, for the market to do a couple of false breaks in a row. So it's possible
Right,
we
right.
go down one day, come back up the other. And the reason I'm spending time about the false breaks and lower highs is because we did have that 144 square. So once you have time in place, you're really looking for price to confirm it one way or the other. That's really the thing. And you can see how here we're sitting right above 144, right below, it's right in that range. And here's that 150 degrees I talked about. So you see the
Mm-hmm.
150 up is exactly,
Half
right.
square.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's half square and it's right around that 53.10. So a lot of stuff lining up, but hey, price is the final decision maker, right? And so
Mm.
we wait and see. There's nothing much to add because that's really because we're still in the same range. Not a whole lot of action happened, and we just had the false break today, and so we'll have to see how it follows through. If we go lower, we could take out today's low. Then I think, and we take out today's low, and we still pivot over here from the 26th. Then we can say, the false break is in place. And if it is in place, we could expect sort of a fast move down. So that's what's at hand. Anything you want to add to that, Ben?
Just at the monthly, we got a new monthly bar today, started a new monthly bar, printed the March bar.
Mm-hmm.
And on the monthly, if you remember, were, one two moves of 144 up from the '09 low
Uh-huh.
and 180 in price.
All right.
I
So
mean 180 in
280.
time, sorry, 180
Uh,
in time.
so 180 by 288. That's
Yep.
interesting. Yeah, that's pretty solid.
And right now, so far it's holding. We'll see. I mean, it's obviously April is a long month, so
Mm-hmm.
this level, which is similar to the one you're showing that it's dancing around, this
Mm-hmm.
5300 area is really important. Are we going to sit on top of it, or are we going to get stuck under it? And that's going to be the big thing.
Right, right. And if you really look at the 150, it's kind of an odd square. 150 is not necessarily a strong one,
Hmm.
but who knows, right? You never
It's
know.
there. Yeah, it's there.
So we have 150, 150 degrees. Yeah, if you take it calendar days or solar movement,
Hmm.
we have 150 by 150 up. So we do have a 150 by 150.
Hmm.
And so anyway, that's kind of what's happening on the daily. Let's take a look at the weekly. So weekly, we had this ABCD target, which would have been ideal if we stopped right in there. But it's not unusual for weeklies to undershoot or overshoot by a little bit. And here we have a bit of an overshoot. I think if we go to the 90, well, let's say 45. So you can see
Hmm.
we're hitting 90 plus a half a square up from there. So this is an important level. What else can I say about this? Well, you saw the Dow, you saw the cash, you saw the futures, and I'm sure it's showing up in the NASDAQ when you cover it.
Yep.
Um, I mean, they're all showing price hitting resistance levels, right? So here we're at 112, and we have timing. You have monthly timing, we have daily timing, we have all sorts of timing coming in.
Hmm.
So that's sort of what we have for the weekly. Anything anything you want to add,
No,
Ben?
it's the next few days and the rest of this week's going to be really important to see what's coming after all this timing and all this resistance is being hit. Does it just consolidate? Does it chop sideways, or do we actually get a bigger correction?
Well, this week's going to give us a very well. It's an important week because of all the timing, and the
Hmm.
week is set. The price pattern, its structure is set up in a way that it could actually show us the hand. It can actually
Yeah.
show us kind of what's happening, one way or the other,
Yep.
and we should see that earlier in the week than later. So that's something good.
Hmm.
Let's see what else we got going. Let's move on to bonds. Bonds,
Look at this.
well, yeah,
That single bar took out 6 days worth of price action to the
that's
upside.
right. That's right. Just like we expected.
Well, and it also, I mean, this is where, reading these bars can really help you understand, you know, what's the
Mhm,
true direction of this market.
mhm.
It crept up, struggled up for 6 days, and in one day they take out, those 6 days worth of action.
Exactly. And so I mean, here's our box.
Hmm.
Market went right up into the upper bounds of the box, and that was it. And all the sellers stepped in all at once, and here we go. And we've been talking about this low for a while, and we talked about it at the time that because of the ABCD completion, if we take out this low, the bonds are going to show a lot of weakness, and so we'll see how that pans out. But for now, you guys know we've been bearish on bonds forever, and
Hmm.
other than this part.
Yeah.
um, so let's see what happens, but we're looking for it to go lower and ultimately test the low in October, dare I say.
And
And
it's funny when I was doing my review, even though I was out last week, I was looking at stuff and I said, it looks, if we get that false break in equities by the action in bonds and other markets, it looks like last week was just a bunch of garbage,
exactly,
like
yeah.
quarter end stuff that people just bought and now they're ready to reverse it, when the
Hmm.
next quarter starts today.
Right, right.
But we'll
It's a
see. We'll
setup.
see.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll
Hmm.
see if the follow through's there.
What we're seeing is, I mean, look at the weekly. If we continue to go lower, we're going to take out 2 weeks of lows,
Hmm.
past 2 weeks. And if that goes, we're going to go lower,
Yep.
probably down to our 114 target we've had. And if we get there, we're probably going to take out the lows. So we're probably going to go to new lows.
Hmm.
And 144 is great, but we're probably going to go to 180. So
Yeah, it's a big move.
we'll see how that works out.
That'll get us below par on the 30-year.
Hmm. Hmm. So anyway, that's all I have for bonds. I think it's weak, and we know the levels,
Hmm.
and trade accordingly, right?
That's it.
Next, let's move on to crude,
The grinder.
the grinder, and it's technically so correct. You know,
Yep. It really
um,
is acting well.
it's acting super well. Ever since we squared out 54 by 54, I think right here, we've
Hmm.
been making it's a very, very nice trend up. We got out of we got on top of the 50% of the square, sat on top of it very nicely, tested it, and broke out of the lower, this big channel
Big
that's coming
channel.
down, big trend
Hmm.
line, got
Hmm.
on top of it. And well, as much as we've been bearish with bonds, we've been bullish with crude.
Correct.
And once we cleared 73 and got on top of the 50% of the square, um, we were, 83 was the next target, and here we are. And
Hmm.
and we talked about last week, if 83 gets taken out, then 91 obviously going to be the next target up. So
Hmm.
that's looks like that's where we're going. The crude market's not shy about what's happening.
I
So
mean,
it
in bunch of different time frames, I'm getting targets up near 100.
yeah, I think so. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep. So let's move on to the weekly. Well,
Chugging
we
along.
chugging along just perfectly, no problem. Now we drew up this little box last week. I guess we're kind of in it at this,
Hmm.
so we really need to get out of that range of that.
Hmm.
And you can see that level up here has been a sort of a sticky point, this 84, 85 area in the
Hmm.
past. Once we clear that, I think it opens it up all the way up to 96, 96 and a half, 97, and that's 90 up from the low back in 2020. Kind of an important level.
Yeah, and
So
looking at your weekly also, I noticed Barry on the weekly, it's climbing a one by one now.
yes, that's right.
Nice
That's
angle
right.
on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, crude has not been shy at all. It's really clearly showing. Market's very strong. Look at that. Right
Hmm.
there,
Nice
it
one
is.
by one.
Hmm. And normally, when you're going on one by ones, they only accelerate. You don't
Right,
decelerate from here,
right.
right? So I think crude, one way or the other, crude is set up for some kind of a move.
And
The larger, Mhm.
I know you like to use that one by one as like your bull bear line. As long as we can hold that line, it's bullish.
Oh, clearly. I mean,
Yeah.
even 1 by 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, this is just, yeah, it's very bullish.
It's
No
just
question
it's
about
just
it.
waiting for the afterburners to kick in. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, yeah. And they will, this kind of a build up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a lot more to go. So we'll see how it works. So for now, I guess don't go short.
No, no, no.
All right. So let's move on to gold. Well, nice try today.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get on top of last week. And this is, even though we came back and closed a little lower, um, we're well above 90, which was
Mm-hmm.
21.91.
Mm-hmm.
And there's good support there now. Let's see what happens. But long as we're above that, boy, any little correction, and there's definitely room to go move higher.
I
So,
tell you what, just to sing your praises a little bit. Look at the move after it held the support on your box in the half square.
mm,
Right there.
right there. Yeah.
And if if people think we're, trading post facto or any like that, just go back and check the last couple months worth of shows where because
Coverage, yeah.
he covers gold every week, and it was
Hmm.
that half square in that box that was key. And the last time we did it with a
Hmm.
false break, remember the
I
whole
remember calling
message
that out. Yep.
the whole message about false breaks is key too.
Hmm.
Before a major move, you usually get a false break in the opposite direction. And there it
Hmm.
is in gold right there.
Exactly. And I remember talking about that specifically,
Yep. Yeah.
and that's the sort of the reverse what we're talking about in the S&P. We have a
That's
potential to
that's
set up.
right. That's exactly
So
right.
we'll have to see, obviously, but you can see how that works out. We'll have to wait and see. But after usually following a false break, you can kind of get ready for a fast move, and which is kind of what we got for gold.
Especially one has been basing like gold was,
Hmm. Hmm.
giving you that huge base, and that it's just textbook. But it's
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a great tool to give you all confidence when you're looking at these patterns that this is possible. When
Hmm.
the setup's there, it's possible.
Yep, for sure. All right, here's the weekly chart, and boy, it's got its afterburners on.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, 21, 2021, we talked about that. I think last episode, we also spent some time on gold. So
Yeah.
at 2100 is really, above that, gold is in a very strong position, as you can see.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, the pull is really still towards this 2400 level, which is 270 degrees up.
Yep.
Um, I see no reason not to think it's going to get there.
Hmm.
So let's just trade the trend. Although I do see an ABCD forming here, we might take a little bit of a breather.
Yeah.
Even with that above 2100, this thing is just ready to go anytime on very short notice.
Yeah, that big ABCD looks good too.
Yeah, let me take a look at that. Well, there you go.
Hmm.
Right on it.
Hmm.
And so that's price and time. So I would expect some kind of, I'm sure everybody saw that, and that's why, the sellers stepped up. And so we'll see. Let's see what the depth of the correction is going to be. There's definitely support coming around 2200, I would say.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a nice little veg here on the daily chart. So 2200 could be support. So let me put that in there.
I mean, this is just a market where you buy pullbacks to support right now until proven otherwise.
Hmm. Hmm. So if you were to put little here, let's put a little buffer in here. So I
Hmm.
think if we can hold any kind of a pullback basis weekly above 2200, it's still in very good shape.
Hmm.
Now the ABCD going into this with time in place is something to pay attention to. And what we want to see is it doesn't mean it's going to end everything, but we really want to watch to see what the quality of the correction. If we can hold above 2200, I think then there's more to go.
Then it's
If we,
super bullish. Yeah.
it's super bullish. If somehow we get under it, still about 2100, then it's sort of a normal correction, like gold likes to do, like here, here,
Hmm.
and probably go higher. So for now, just keep in mind, we do have that ABCD in place.
Hmm.
Yep. Moving on to copper, doing
Which
pretty
also
well.
looks good. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's sitting on
And
top of your box, which is very bullish
mhm.
technically.
And it's kind of a similar thing. Here's that false break
Hmm.
before starting to move up.
Hmm.
We did the sideways, false break, started to move up, got about the 50% of the square, and it's just in a decent trend. Not a super bullish one, but sloppy, but it's okay. It's
It is okay.
And now, I mean, the real okay part here is that it's on top of that huge
Uh,
consolidation, right?
yep.
So
On top of that box.
top of that box came right back to it over here. No matter what, boy, tell you what, copper trades technically. Look at this.
Yeah, it does.
Came right back and tapped it. Now, if we can hold above that level, I think it's in good shape. Let's
Agreed.
Yep. Go and take a look at the weekly. Weekly, well, we're basically dancing around the 50% of the square.
Yeah, that's the key,
Um,
right?
yeah, and last week we had that inside bar, took out the low and reversed today. So we'll see what kind of follow through we get with that.
Hmm.
If we can somehow manage to get above this 50% of the square, let's just say 406 or so. If we can hold above it, I think it'll be better than under it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, let's see what happens. But as you can see, we are making higher highs and higher lows.
Hmm.
So I think the next, so the base would be if we can somehow get above this 50% of the square, I think we'll be in good shape. Let's move on to the dollar.
Which made a new high for
Mm-hmm.
this 2024 today.
Yep, yep, new high. And well, I don't know. We've been bullish, and there it
You've
is.
been you've been steadfastly bullish that dollar, and it's coming through now.
It's coming through, and we have can drop a nice trend line here, I think.
Hmm.
Or there we go. And target looks like 107 at this point. At what unless this doesn't look like a false break because we closed
Near the
pretty
high.
much near the highs. So eventually, 107 would be the target. If we get to 107, looks like this time around we should probably settle above it and then you know
I
move
mean, look
higher.
how good your big green box is too. We pulled right back to it, just above it,
Oh, you mean here?
And yeah, and
Yeah.
there, and then if you extend the box over,
Oh,
you
right
can
here.
see, yeah, we had another
Mm-hmm,
pullback that didn't even get that low,
mm-hmm.
but it stayed on top of it, and that's your clue.
Yep. And I remember talking about that too.
Hmm.
How it didn't quite get to that, and that being bullish, not quite
Totally
getting there.
bullish. Yep.
So anyway, if we drop another, not to, I don't want to make this whole day about ABCDs, but if you drop an ABCD here,
Right.
it's going to give us a nice target right around 107, probably even a little higher. Let me put that
Yeah, it
in
is in that area. They are very handy dandy formations to be aware of.
very much so. So there we go. It should put us right
Hmm.
into 107. At least let's see what happens. There's the ABCDs kind of act like magnets.
They do.
Um, so because we have a Gartley in here is what's happening. That's why, we have X, A, B, C, and here's the
Hmm.
D, working the D.
Hmm.
And that could get, so 107.25, and the target is 106.80, let's
80.
say.
Hmm.
So that's sort of the target range, and it seems right. It all work out.
Hmm. So let's see. We got weak bonds, weak market, strong commodities, strong dollar. Interesting
Hmm.
combo. Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Not like the market doesn't show or give us any clues, right?
Well,
It's all there.
it's the flow of the money, right? The
Exactly.
dollars sloshing around between the different
Hmm.
asset classes.
Yep. So here's the weekly, looking good. And we talked about it, I think last episode we talked about 106.75 and how we need to, and we had that inside bar, took out the high,
Mm-hmm.
and here's a
Mm-hmm.
move. We should get at least another week out of it and maybe even reach 50% of the square. It looks good. I mean, this is the range. I mean, we've been kind of range bound in it. And you can see this week was one of the bars that's really stretching it out. See that?
Mm-hmm.
See that? You know, so it's ascending, so it's pushing. Um, I don't know. I would call that bullish.
Yeah.
And let's move on to the euro.
Which is the inverse,
Hmm.
pretty much.
And what do you think happened at that 108 level? You know,
Failure.
and kaboosh. Yeah, I mean, the cool cool thing is it broke through, and so here's the 28, and the high today
Tested it.
tested it. Yeah, 79.87. I mean, that's about as close
Mm-hmm.
to 108,
Yeah.
and then we sold off. So that's how it works. And the big hint that this is going lower was, this high, this little bounce we had, we came down to test it on the 22nd,
Right.
23rd, sat there, 26th, ran up and couldn't do it, reversed, and then this tiny little bar. If this was going to bounce and run, it wouldn't have this kind of a pattern, this tiny, tiny
No.
narrow range, right?
Nope. Nope.
Yep. And then once we broke the 108, you can see even a little retest before dropping. So there you go. Needless to say, we're in a weak side of the square now, and let's see how much lower we can go. And we saw the dollar has a lot more upside left. I'm guessing we're going to test these lows eventually, but the low on the 14th, February 14th, will be the one to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
If that goes, then I think 104 area is not that big of a deal. It's not a stretch.
No.
No. And here's the
Weekly.
weekly. Not much to add because the 108 is here as well, and we broke the triangle. We had a little triangle working here. We took out the trend line, and if we continue to remain below 108, I would expect 104 area to be tested next. Let's watch it. As long as it's below 108, it's weak. I mean, that means it's susceptible to downdrafts.
Correct.
Downdrafts could be just anytime. So I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to be caught long
Below
on
108.
below 108, especially if it's not on some support.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of dangerous. What else do we have? Hang Seng, here's an ABCD that nailed the low
Yep.
nicely, price and time, and we ran up nicely after that. Not convincingly closing at a very strong place. Like I would like to see it above at least 16, 17,000 maybe, but we're not
Mm-hmm.
quite there. But then again, markets like to keep you guessing, so fine. But it's still making higher lows. Looks okay. At least that big down move seems to have paused for a bit. So looks pretty good. It looks like the
Mm-hmm.
low is in for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you're covering natural gas today. Yeah.
Yep. But
Yep.
basically it's the same story. Higher lows with a support holding.
Yeah, that 153 was important, and you guys can see how we held it. Now, I mean, now the whole big deal is trying to get above this 250, and
Yep.
and so it's a bit of a move. Um, but I think I said it before. Normally, how these break out is not necessarily grinding, but it could be on a panic. Some kind of a spike, and boom.
News.
Now
Yep.
it news, and then we set up the other side, and then it becomes normal, and people start to trade it. Well, that's all I got. Covered a lot.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very, very good coverage.
Thanks, Ben. I think that's all we have. Let me put it back to you because you have a lot of commodities to cover this week, and they're all
Yeah.
important ones. A lot of trends going on. So, all right, I'll put it back to you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, Ben, we look like we have a certified lower high.
We have a lower high already in NASDAQ.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's the couple of things I wanted to show here is that the NQs, we do have a lower high. We're running into resistance at this half square. We pushed a week ago, tried to stay above, couldn't get it.
Hmm.
Today we kind of back tested it and sold off.
Hmm.
So what we want to see is we want to see this if you're looking, to say, okay, the bearish case is going to dominate. and take over. We want to see this low get taken out, and then the big test is here.
Mm.
Right around 17,900. That's going to be the big test.
Right, right.
We get stuck below that, then we're sort of in business on the bearish side. And the bulls, it's simple. They got to clear and get above this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that half square is really key now.
Yep. 18,635. They got to get above that. If they can do
Mm-hmm.
that, then they're
Mm-hmm.
in business. Let's check weekly and
Mm-hmm.
monthly, show you a couple other things we're looking at. And you said this in your piece on the S&P, which we'll see on the monthly. So here, key level is right here,
Right. Yeah.
18,150. We've got we had this weekly bar, cleared it. This one, it was sort
Mm-hmm.
of in the inside bar, and then we got an
Another
inside bar of the
today.
inside bar.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take out, going by your inside bar theory, if we take out the low here, which is 18,378, that should signal we're going to go lower and test this full square. And if we lose the
Mm-hmm.
full square, you can see where both structurally and geometrically, it's this half square that's really important on a weekly. That's all the way down to like 16,200.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some room if we lose that there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take a look at the monthly. Here's where we're running into resistance.
I'd say.
Yep. And there's pretty nice geometry here too, with 180 from the '09 low
Mm-hmm.
in terms of 180 months, just like on the S&P.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And these other time counts coming all in this little area here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much like the ES that you've thoroughly reviewed. We are at a critical time and price juncture, and uh, given what we do in the next couple days, we're gonna decide. Okay, is the rally over, and are we going to get a correction, or are we going to continue to push higher
Mm-hmm.
because we can clear these levels?
Right.
Anything else you want to add on the NQs? Here's the back to the daily.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that trend line is gonna be very close to the trend line, and just wait. I mean, this lower high is really important. If we take out today's high tomorrow, well, then we wait to see what unfolds along that path. As of now, if we take out today's low, then it looks like
I mean,
it's really bar by bar right now.
and as you were pointing out when you were reviewing crude and copper and stuff, it's sort of the inverse of what we're seeing in those
Mm-hmm.
markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that we just have to be aware of the possibilities. Yes, right now it's still bullish, structure's bullish, everything's bullish, but everything's always bullish at a top. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to look for the signs of a transition, and they're starting to show. We're not 100% sure that it's going to result in anything, but we have to take notice, and that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another market where let's jump over to Bitcoin. Here's another market where we have a lower high in place,
Mm-hmm.
pretty
That
solidly delineated lower high.
and following through, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we took out the low today. We closed in the middle of the range, but we definitely took out the low. We stayed above this half square. Clearly, this half square is going to be very important. Getting a close under there,
Mm-hmm.
puts us at risk of at least doing an ABCD. Let's see where that takes us.
Oops.
That would be a pretty big move.
Yeah, that's a huge.
That takes us down to 58.8 roughly.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it gets that low, it's probably going to slide all the way to 50.
Yeah, it'll come to test in this area.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I left the Gann fan on because I wanted to show you. I covered it a little bit last week, but look how it's hanging on to this 2x1 right now.
Mm-hmm.
We lose the
Mm-hmm.
2x1. We're the next level you're going to come down to is this 1x1, which is in the
Right.
neighborhood of that ABCD.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's a decent target here. So watch, call it 69.3.
Mm-hmm.
We get stuck below that. Uh, that means we're below the the 2x1 and probably heading to the 1x1,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
either this full square here or the half square here.
Right.
Overall, it looks like, a bit of a rollover pattern, and it could just be an ABCD that corrects and still, bigger
Yeah.
picture
Move
still
on.
stays bullish, but
Mm.
just be aware of that potentially happening. Any other observations here on Bitcoin?
No, no, I think leave well enough alone. It looks
Yeah,
it's setting up,
yeah,
unfolding nicely.
definitely setting up.
Hmm.
All right, let's before we jump to the commodities, let's just sort of give you a little synopsis. Money's coming in. As Barry covered gold and copper, I'm just going to cover silver in the metals, and silver looks just like the other two.
Hmm.
We'll talk about crude and natural gas really quickly because Barry covered those. The
Hmm.
ones we're going to spend a little time on are corn, cotton, and coffee.
Hmm.
So let's jump into corn first. Okay, here's the interesting move. Look at that move on Friday on or Thursday on corn.
Yeah. Really
That's
trying.
a
Can't say it's not trying.
Yeah. This was like sort of the third time we've banged on
Hmm.
this half square. And you know what Gann always says, doesn't he say there's no such thing as triple tops or triple bottoms?
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
generally they end up getting broken.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um what I'm looking at, we had a big inside day today after that big up bar. So what we want to watch is the high here and the low here and see which one gets taken out first,
Hmm.
because that should give us the direction here. And again, it's setting up on a daily that we could have a nice move after the ABCD, right? One, two, this would be a three. So on the upside, not only are we looking at the harmonic balance point there of, 442, but the half square, which is 447. If we can exceed that, we could run at least to this downtrend line from those, Russian invasion highs,
Hmm.
which is in around the 480 level.
Hmm.
And then we clear that, you're talking full square here, around 500, which would be a nice move. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what the setup is on the daily. Uh, let's look at let's look at the weekly. The weekly, we're inside right now. But you can see we've had, several up bars, including this one. This was an outside bar, but it ended up being an up bar for last week. So this again is pointing towards, we did an ABCD down, the full square held, and we could, this weekly could really push here if it gets help from the daily.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's look at the monthly as well. I want to show you one thing on the monthly.
Hmm.
Monthly's holding support here, right?
Yeah. Yep. Very
So
well.
Yeah, so far, as long as we stay above this sort of 431 area, we have a nice potential for a push up on a monthly basis. Also, we're 22 months from the high to the low. 22 is a good number, half of 45. So that's 22 months down, potentially
Kevin?
for the low there. Anything to add on corn, Barry?
No, I mean, I think the breakout will confirm the low and then we should start to move.
And then we
No?
should start
Yeah.
moving. That
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. Wheat and soybeans just aren't quite ready yet. I'm watching those, and we'll jump on them when they are. But corn really seems to have the best structure right now, short term, to make a move. And we've got something that's pretty defined here, right? It's a really tight range that if we can break, should
Yeah.
give us a
Very
decent
powerful.
move. Yep,
Hmm.
should give us a decent move. All right, let's jump over to our friend Cotton,
Hmm.
because I believe today we completed the correction with this reversal.
Hmm. Yeah. Very
You
clean.
know,
That.
yeah, we triangulated the lows here coming out of this big consolidation. Remember the pattern comes
Hmm.
down, does a false break, and then does the move in the opposite direction. Well, here we got that first move up in cotton. ran into resistance the full square. We were looking for an ABCD down. We got it. Came
Mm-hmm.
down into support in the half square, and here's your reversal.
Mm-hmm.
Today's the reversal, and it looks to me as if we're ready to start moving again in cotton based on the pattern, completed ABCD, and the nice reversal in the price today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the weekly for another good reason why. We came right down to support, not
Mm-hmm.
only half square support, but structural support of the entire consolidation. You can see it really well in
Mm-hmm.
the weekly. You know how multiple times we went up here, couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
when we were in this congestion zone, couldn't break out.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got above it and we pulled back and we've tested it. Really like to see us take out last week's high, which was at 94.27. We take that out, then we've got a weekly reversal to go along with our daily. So that's what cotton looks like to me. What gems do you see in this little chart here?
Well, what I see is a perfect textbook check back from a
Yeah.
breakout.
Yep.
I mean, this is about as textbook as it gets, and it's holding trend lines. It's looking fairly good. I think this is the time to start trading it.
Yep.
You know,
I think
not a
we're
whole lot
in.
of fanfare, but that's just what it is when we
We,
talk about these things.
it's no drama is fine with me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how the drama tends to potentially shake us out. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
let's
No,
see
it's
what we
trading
can
well.
do.
It's trading really well. It's moving, and not a whole lot of sideways lately. So I think it's looking good. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go check one of the other softs that I think is ready to break out as well, and that is coffee. Look at the last 3 days, Barry.
Wow.
Boom, boom, boom. We're banging on the ceiling here.
Mm-hmm.
So coffee is one that we triangulated into these lows, uh, traded this leg, saw the correction coming in. We've been in a
Yep.
consolidation now for almost 5 months, believe it or not. If you take it
Mm-hmm.
from the high here,
Right.
which was December 19th, and we're over into April. So it's almost 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we've been winding up and tightening up. And the last 3 days, there's been not a lot of weakness. It just keeps pushing, pushing, pushing into this full square on the top of the triangle here.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks to me like a breakout is imminent.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, this full square is the key level right now for us on the bullish side, and that's 192 and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
We can get up over 192, let's call it. Um, this will be the breakout, and it should be a pretty big move, 30, $40 out of this triangle, which would be really, really nice. Take
Yeah.
us up, I think, at least into this uh 214 area and possibly the full square up here around 230, 240.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you can see here we failed one, two, three, four different times when we tried to break out before. So the breakout will be significant on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the weekly. The weekly, we're just breaking out of the triangle. Again, which
Wow.
will give us a powerful move.
This looks really ready to go.
it's
That's all I.
it's kind of got all the fuel that it needs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because this triangle again was it since last October, November, just winding
Yeah.
up,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
winding up.
huge. Yeah.
Let's check the monthly. What do we got on a monthly? Same thing, breaking a triangle.
Look at that. Perfect. Perfect.
Mhm. So while it's not 100% solid that it's there yet, you better have, if you want to trade it, you better watch this thing closely because when it goes, it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it moves. It moves pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Anything else to add here on coffee?
Just like you said, it's time to watch it, and we could have a really good move, at least one square minimum.
Yeah,
Probably
one,
more.
probably more, but
Yeah.
at least a nice one square move.
Mm-hmm.
And with the price at 190, $30 is 15,
It's
20%
huge. That's
move.
that's huge.
So watch your coffee. All right, let's go to the next one, which is silver. Want to show you silver. And the main thing I want to show you here is how we did our
Mm-hmm.
little, we broke out, we pulled back, and look at where the pullback found support, right on the half square.
Pretty good. Yep. Yep.
And so we've gotten 2-day reversal now. Um, while gold did the perfect ABCD, silver hasn't yet. So maybe we play some catch up and silver will take the lead and gold rests a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely feel like, silver is something to watch. And here's when you look at the weekly, monthly, you'll see kind of why it's being held back. And if we can break it, a lot like some of these other commodities we were looking at can give us a pretty nice push higher.
Mm-hmm.
See the half square we're battling at right now
Yep.
in about this 25, 22 range, right near where we closed. We can push above this.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking full square, which is 27.44. And then bigger picture on the weekly, if we do this ABCD, talking about the highs from 2020,
Mm-hmm.
around $30.
Yeah.
If it just does an ABCD, obviously, if this is a bigger third
Right.
wave type structure, you'll have a lot bigger move.
Right.
Let's look at the monthly. Monthly still in the triangle, but near the top. And if we can get the push through here, 2667 is the key level monthly basis. We get above that and sit on top of it, then it can you sort of chew through this area and really break us out. And just like you were seeing in the other ones, this is a potential for a full square move on a
Yeah.
on a monthly basis where you're looking at 50.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem like that much of a big deal.
No,
No.
and it's there. It's all there. A big monthly triangle. And if you want to
Mm.
see what big monthly triangle can do, go watch Coco. Go look at the Coco chart. That
Yeah.
was a that was a multi-year
Mm-hmm.
uh triangle on a monthly basis, but it's powerful moves. The bigger the time frame and the longer the consolidation, the more power is available for the move to play out. And so silver is another one that's been building up this energy to potentially make this massive move. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say watch silver very, very closely.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add on silver?
No, you're right on. I think you're all over it. We're good.
Okay. Let's quickly, I know you covered crude and we talked about how bullish that was, but I want to show you one thing on the crude chart. Crude monthly. This month, we are escaping the 2 by 1 to the downside. So this is sort of looking at it from the reverse, right? We made this high. We were going down on a basically first we started off an 8 by 1, then we stayed on the 4 by 1. We got through that, checked back to the 2 by 1 and continued the downtrend. Now we're trying to escape the 2 by 1, which is big, right? Because if we escape the 2 by 1, we're heading to the 1 by 1, $100. Let's say it takes until October to get there, but you can do it. Anywhere in here is where once we escape this and can't get back below it, this is the next sort of magnet for price. In addition to we have the half square here
Mm-hmm.
that's at 90, then we sit
Mm-hmm.
above 90, we go to the full square, which is around 116, 115.
Right.
So this I just wanted to show everybody because uh, it's a pretty significant thing when it occurs, and you can see what happens and the reactions you get in the market. But you did a good job covering that, so we won't spend a lot of time on that. Let's quickly go over to natural gas.
And we cover this every week. So,
Yeah, we do cover crude every week. Nat gas. Just to corroborate what Barry was saying, we made this sort of false break low below the full square here,
mm-hmm.
pushed up, and now look at what we're doing. We're finding support on a daily basis with higher lows above the square,
Mm-hmm.
which is baby step bullish behavior, right? we need to take out some highs. Like we need this high exceeded by this, the next bar tomorrow. I'd like to see that happen. Then we've got again a low, a high, higher low, higher high type situation. And then we got to come up and attack the half square, which is around 223.
Right.
But baby steps are happening here. Let's see. We want to see some highs get taken out. We're seeing higher lows. Now let's see some highs get taken out, and it'll give us even more evidence and more confidence. Let's go to the weekly. Holding on here. And we've
Yep.
seen, looking back, it's a point where the market has found value, and it's, beginning to find value there again on a weekly
Hmm.
basis.
Hmm.
So that 166, 165 area is super duper important. Don't want to see price get under that.
Right.
And then here's a bigger picture basis. Patterns repeat, right? See how it sort of creates these little multiple touches for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So this would be the third month. I want to see it hold here. So is an urgency to own natural gas? Probably not. Is it something we want to watch and make sure that this area holds and then see if we can get daily higher highs and daily higher lows? Then
Yes.
yeah, then we start accumulating. That's right.
Hmm.
So bigger picture, Barry, this time frame, what's the thing? How do you focus at these sort of periods of transition? Like when you have a potentially bigger transition, what is it that you do to sort of keep your mind on the bigger picture as well as, ring the register and trade on the shorter time frames? How do you balance those things?
Well, truly, I make a lot of notes. And
That's good
yeah,
advice.
yeah, yeah, because you can't possibly keep everything. I make notes for each thing, and you might not be able to trade everything. So, choose the ones you want to trade, make the notes, find your targets, like we're doing now for some of the things. Find your entry points and wait for the triggers to show up, you know,
Because
and always measure out the risk.
it feels like one of those potentially slack tide areas, where it's not the tide's not rising, but it's not going out either. It's sort of it's just we're kind of sitting there and we're waiting for that move to happen.
Hmm. And well, we've been in, we hit a couple of these points before. I mean, along the
Hmm.
same path, at least for the S&P and some of these other markets. But the way to handle it is, I think, I mean, this at least this is for me, and we all have our different personalities and psychologies. So the best thing is to be detached, right? I mean, it goes without saying, and not to get wrapped up in the news. That's the biggest thing. And if you
That's
just
that's
take,
huge.
yeah, and if you can just kind of avoid the news and headlines, because that's going to make your thinking, it's going to change, affect your thinking. And if you just stay with the bars and the charts and the levels and the patterns, it always works out. And I was telling my son the other day, because he's trading stocks now.
Right?
When we go back and back test, we're not back testing the headlines that would affect you at the time. We only look at the charts. We're very technical, very pure. But then when we, get into real time, then, we hear this, we see another headline flash by, or a friend tells you this, whispers that,
Our
and
guru
that
says this or
guru
that.
says this, yeah, yeah. And then you see all this potential analogs that people post. So, all of that affects you. And so the best thing for me, I mean, we have to try to be detached. I mean, I don't know how we all have to approach that. Try to be as detached as possible, right? That's one thing. And then you lean really heavily on the technicals. That's we've done that so many times, right? When we have get into these really weird spots from, I mean, last 4 years or so, right? 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and that we've been recording and putting stuff out. It's every time it gets kind of confusing, gets a little muddled up. You lean really heavily on the technicals, and you kind of avoid the news. And at least you can't avoid the news, but at least try not to mix it up or to draw conclusions, because news, by the time we get it, it's history.
And
By the
and that's
time,
that's a that's a huge point because the the news, and it's not intended to do this or designed to do it, but in practice, it gets you wrong-footed at these turns because it's super bullish when things are at highs. You know, they're
Hmm.
talking about when the Dow's at 40,000, they're talking about 100,000, or Bitcoin's at 70, they're talking about Bitcoin a million.
Right.
And when it's down, they're talking about, oh, it's going to zero, or, it's a
It's
wipeout.
extreme. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And at those inflection points is when you get the most extreme sentiment, news, feelings. And so what you're saying about detaching from that and just rely on the technicals and rely on the cyclical, numbers that you have, the time cycles, and say,
Hmm.
okay, what's most probable at this time? It gives you it doesn't give you, 100% accuracy or 100% advantage, but it gives you an edge that you're going to be able to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, enough to make money.
That's it.
That's the edge you want, you know?
Or importantly, enough to not be, loading the boat long at the top or shorting the daylights out of everything at the bottom, which is
Exactly.
which is what sentiment can do to you, right? You get
Right.
caught up in it. Because you
Hmm.
hear about
Hmm.
how much money this long is making at the top, or you hear about how much money the guys who shorted real estate made in '09, and you hear about all those stories, and everybody gets, and then you become the exit liquidity for someone else. That's what
Exactly.
happens.
And if you listen to the stories of those guys that did those things, usually they did their own work. They weren't listening to the news, and they had a plan and they executed it. All these
And
stories, that's what happens.
and they went against the prevailing thought at the time.
Exactly. Yep.
Not it wasn't the bandwagon guys that made all the money. So
Exactly. Yeah. These
we're
aren't
not saying
group.
right, and we're not here trying to predict that this is a major turn or anything like that. Don't get us wrong. I'm just trying to have the discussion so that you all can understand psychologically, sentiment wise, as well as technical wise and cyclically wise, what happens when these turns do happen. Right?
Hmm.
It's not like it's a turn 100% when it's happening. You don't, and you never do at the turn.
Hmm.
It's only after the fact that oh yeah, 100% that was the high, or 100% that was the low. We don't know that at the time. We're
Because
just trying to we're
yeah.
just trying to assess probabilities and get a decent read on, what's more likely to happen. What's a higher probability thing to happen than something else?
Right. And the sentiment takes time to get traction.
Mhm.
So when sentiment comes in, top or bottom, it takes time, and that time it takes to find traction is how we see the patterns. I mean, that's what the patterns are. It's how what sentiment's doing. And if you can just follow that, it tells you every time.
Yeah.
So that's all we do. And if those things are happening, those the sentiment changes are happening, the patterns are happening around time cycles and price squares, well, those are the ideal places,
That just
right?
stacks the more odds in your favor, and that's
Exactly.
what we look for. We try to
Yeah.
stack them up, and as you see that, we start with like sort of one chip we put down, and then we
Hmm.
see we get more data, and we're putting more chips down, and the more chips we get, the higher level of confidence we can say, okay, it's worth taking a position now.
Right. At some point, it tips it. It triggers the green light. So.
And that's exactly right.
Mhm.
That's the methodology. Anyway,
Yeah.
listen, we're sorry about the delay. It was due to travel and holiday and all that. We'll get this out as quickly as possible. But the bonus is you'll have two shows this week because we're here recording here on Monday, and we're going to record again on Friday. And hopefully the
And maybe Tuesday stock might drop on Tuesday or Wednesday.
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
Yep.
great job, Barry. Really good review for again a critical window that we're in, and we'll see how it plays out. And the thing that we promise is we'll continue updating these videos and giving you the information and the data that we feel is important
Hmm.
to consider in making your decisions. So good job, Barry, and everybody have a good week, and we'll talk to you near the end of the week.
All right. Great job. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye bye.